Hello and welcome to another podcast from the top floor, sponsored by Vistage UAE. I'm John Nolan, a chair with Vistage UAE, and today I'm joined by Fred Casagrande from Smoking Beards. Fred has a great story to tell us, very, very interesting, and I'm sure one that will get the juices flowing when he starts telling you about the product that Fred is a specialist in creating. So Fred, very welcome today. How are you doing?
Thank you, John. I'm doing very well. What about you?
Great. Yeah, just looking forward to our chat. So Fred, look, before we get into the conversation on Smoking Beards, can I just ask you, actually, you've recently joined Vistage. So maybe when I ask you for a little bit of feedback on your experience to date, you might want to also just tell me a little bit of how you came about finding out about Vistage and how you have found your start in Vistage. You've been a member for 2 months now.
That's correct. Yeah. So I came to know about Vistage in industry events and conferences where I was meeting with leaders of other companies, and there was, we were discussing about how to grow as a organization leader. Because it's quite difficult. It's quite a lonely journey. And several of them over the past couple of months have actually mentioned being a member of Vistage and how that helped them to share experience and get some kind of a sounding board of like-minded people. And I remember seeing on your profile that you were a Vistage chair. So that's how I approached you to join the organization. And it's been 2 months now, so I've honestly I feel fortunate because I resonate with the members of our group, and I feel extremely comfortable in sharing challenges and experiences with them and contributing to helping them resolve their own. So it has already made a difference, although it has only been 2 months.
Great. Well, look, it's great to have you involved, and yeah, you've made a very positive impact already. So looking forward to your Vistage journey. So let's get into a conversation now about Smoking Beards. Can you tell us what is the company about? What does it do, and what is your role in the company?
So I'm one of the 2 founders of Smoking Beards, and Smoking Beards is an F&B trading company. The core of our business is to produce and sell barbecue spices. So I started barbecuing when I came to Dubai 17 years ago, and from a very bad start, I would say, because I come from a northern country in Europe. I mean, Alsace in France is not an extremely sunny region, so barbecuing is at best a very seasonal activity. But with a lot of practice, I started becoming a little bit better, and I started food sports and food competitions in 2021. And for my first competition in Dubai, I created a spice rub. I didn't win the competition, but everybody wanted a piece of that rub. So this is how we started the company. And this is how we started selling. We have now 3 rubs that are on the shelves in various places in UAE, in Philippines, and in France. And it's the bulk of what we're trying to expand as a business worldwide at the moment.
Wow, fascinating. So how did you end up getting them in Philippines and France? I mean, France is your home country. I guess you just use your contacts there, but Philippines?
So Philippines is kind of a coincidence. I mean, I've been approached by a butchery in Abu Dhabi called La Carne, and it's a family-owned business from Philippines. So they have stores in Philippines and they have stores in Abu Dhabi, and of course, they took the spices with them over there, making us a global company before our time. So it was a great kickstart.
So tell me exactly, what is your role in Smoking Beards? When did you launch the company? And tell me a little bit about the journey and your role in that journey.
Right. So Smoking Beards is an organization I started with my wife in 2021, in November 2021. and it's a company that has started following a food competition, as I mentioned earlier, where we felt that we were onto something that was potentially worth creating a business and grow into something much bigger than it was at the moment. So it's been a bit more than 3 years now. My role in Smoking Beards is mainly revolving around the culinary aspects. So I'm a barbecue pitmaster. I also happen to have won the UAE Championship in 2023. And I represented the country at the World Food Championship for live fire barbecue last year in Dallas, Texas, where I finished 7th worldwide. So I'm using barbecue exposure and those competitions as a showcase for our spices, but also to start another revenue stream around catering and restaurant. So we're doing F&B outlet activations on behalf of hospitality companies. We started that early 2024, and we did a couple of those where I come in as a guest chef. I create some menu items, and around Smoking Beards, we promote the restaurant, but also our products and recipes.
Great. So where do you see Smoking Beards going? I mean, what's the plans for Smoking Beards?
Well, so Smoking Beards has the potential to grow very significantly. So there is definitely a work stream on catering. There is a huge demand for private chef events. There is a huge demand for both private catering, but also corporate catering for companies or for big events. I mean, we've done the Steve Harvey Open Fire Food Festival in February, Taste of Dubai. We're doing Taste of Abu Dhabi in November. So those are all very reputable and large-scale events in the UAE. We've cooked in some events in the mountains in Al Ain, where we had 400 people lining up to get meat from Smoking Beards. And that was absolutely mind-boggling to see so much demand and so much passion around our products. So definitely, I see Smoking Beards as potentially operating food trucks in various countries over the next couple of years. But also, I'm looking at brick and mortar locations, which is a lot more difficult to really get started, especially in Dubai. As you know, the food scene is buzzing, but everything is about the location. So there is a lot of investment to front to get that started. And then, of course, there is the retail aspect, where we are hoping to start selling our spices in Europe, but also in North America, where there is a huge market for barbecue practitioners. So expanding the range, expanding the geographies, and see where that takes us.
So what have been the biggest challenges to date? What are the biggest challenges you're facing?
Well, so I would say there is one challenge that I did not see coming. It's an identity crisis. It was defining what exactly is Smoking Beards. Who am I? Am I a chef? Am I an entrepreneur? Am I a culinary director? We had to start figuring out what exactly it was, because it started more as a hobby that we then shaped into a company. So it's defining a strategy and defining strategic objectives that align with that general direction. It's a challenge that I don't think I have fully addressed with my partner, and we're keeping a lot of options open, which of course we're going to have to narrow down when some of them are really taking flight. So that was the first challenge. The second challenge is more a market analysis challenge, and this is really it's extremely niche. So trying to find market information for what we're doing is quite difficult and most often very inaccurate. So sometimes we got to take the leap and see what comes out of an operation or an event.
So it sounds like you have a few opportunities. It depends on which ones open up, on which direction the company may take. Is that
That's
fair
correct.
To say?
Yeah, that's a good assessment, John.
Okay, well, look, it certainly sounds. I was going to say delicious. It sounds fascinating, and I for one can't wait until I get to taste your culinary skills. But look, what I'd like to do now, Fred, is like segue a little bit into your background, your career. You're very distinguished, very capable project manager, right? So do you want to tell a little bit about your journey as well to get in the PM world? I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I my day job was in the world of project management, and this is a career that I have embraced. I would say 27 years ago. Back in the days, I did not really put a name or a label on that. It was just getting things done and making sure that you list everything that has to be done and identify who's going to do what and so on and so forth. And one day, I discovered that this was called project management. From there on, I started looking into certifications and how to really hone my skills and become better at what I was doing. So I joined the Project Management Institute, got my first certification. I became an expat in 2000, started moving from France to Switzerland, to Eastern Europe, to Prague, then to the Middle East, Egypt, and in the UAE, where I started in 2008. In 2008, I really started focusing on what we call project management offices. And they have many different labels right now, but the PMO in a company or in an organization is the unit that really looks at organizational project management and more about strategy execution. So it's basically focusing not only on how to do projects right, but really how to do the right projects. Now, you would argue this should help me a lot in smoking beards, but somehow when there is an emotional attachment to what the type of project that you're doing, I don't know, it seems to be a little bit less efficient than when I'm doing it for organizations where I'm less passionate about the food.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, there is a phenomenon that professionals or subject matter experts are very good at actually executing and advising in their day jobs, but then in their own personal life, they take a break from what they're good at. So sometimes
Preaching, yeah. I heard the same, and this is something I have witnessed in many different instances. So yeah, it's quite bizarre, to be honest.
Okay, so look, on the project management side of things, let's delve into, you've set up numerous project management offices. What's the most complicated project you've ever worked on?
I would say for the past 8 to 9 years, I was working on the first nuclear power plant in the Arab world, the Barakah nuclear power plant in Abu Dhabi. And this was really something that I'm not sure how I can top a project of that level of complexity. So it was not only the construction of 4 nuclear power plants in a country that has a very harsh weather conditions, but also in a country that was new to nuclear, where the regulator was new, and we had to set up everything, not only create the asset, but create the organization that would operate it from scratch. So I joined. 1 year later, we created the company called NAWA, which is now operating those 4 nuclear units. And we had to create everything from the ground up, like the people, the capability, the processes, the policies, the procedures, the templates, the tools and systems, like absolutely everything. And now 25% of the electricity generated in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi is nuclear, and it's something that is still an element of pride on my list of achievements. So I don't know, maybe going to Mars would be.
How many were in the team in the PMO office?
In the PMO, we had 13 people. And what I like, and you know that very well, being in the country for quite a while as well, some of the best opportunities that we have in this country is to work in really a multicultural organization. We had in NAWA more than 50 nationalities, and I had 11 in the PMO. So quite a small team, but almost one individual from each and every country. And really coming from Asia, coming from Eastern Europe, coming from North America. It was all over the place. It was creating many challenges, but also it was bringing so much to the table in terms of diversity of opinions and tools and recipes and tricks they would bring not only from their country, but also from the industries they were coming from.
Well, okay, so you've obviously worked at the highest, I would say, at the very highest level in the PMO world, and certainly in this region. I know you're a distinguished speaker as well internationally at events, at project management events, or project management office events, or industry events, let's just say. Well, like, can you tell me, Fred, what you think makes a great leader?
Well, it's a complex question, and I would say there are so many different ways to answer that question. If I had to narrow down to only one singular response, I would say it's the ability of creating other leaders and having people follow you. And you know, I've had in the past some people who worked with me, and we had to part ways for many different reasons. Either they decided to leave or I decided to leave. And several years later, on one phone call, they drop everything and they come back to work with you. And I think that's really symbolizes a great leader.
So what is your leadership style like?
It's a variable geometry leadership style. It changes depending on the circumstances, I would say. But mostly I'm more inclined towards something that is more participative. I like sharing problem statements with a group of experts and then getting the best out of them by getting out of the way. And when the circumstances arise where it is not possible for various reasons, stepping in and, rather than asking, telling.
And I think just for transparency, your day job is still in the PMO space, right? I mean, smoking beers
yes.
You're smoking beers, as you said, it's a hobby that's turned into a company.
Yeah.
And obviously being in the F&B space, it's very suited to the after hours, weekends type opportunities. So
yeah,
where do you see the
right.
PMO industry going in the next few years? Where do you see it going, and how do you see, where is the UAE in its adopting of PMO practices?
So that's a great question, John. So PMO is really moving, and I saw that trend for the last probably 15 years, where it was extremely tactical at the very beginning, focusing on tools and techniques and focusing on how to manage projects. So there is still an aspect of that is important in order to build and improve the capability within the organizations. But we're really moving up the value chain, and I see today more and more different acronyms. So we call it strategy management office, we call it value management office, or it's almost irrelevant. What really matters is that we're looking at how to generate and maximize value for an organization by using project management disciplines, project management, program management, portfolio management, and so on and so forth. So it's really, and I don't believe that you could really, formalize archetypes of different types of PMOs. It's really about what fits your organization. And furthermore, what fits your organization today. So I could set up a PMO for your company today. We will have to adapt it in the next 6 months because your company is changing and evolving, and the project management practices have to evolve with your problem statement and stay relevant. So I think this is what we call, the agile PMO, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's a great definition. I mean, a great explanation. The agile PMO, and I think, as a passionate, leader on strategy, and I've always tried to, come up with the best tools to support me on not just the creation of strategy, but the execution and the measurement of strategy. I mean, I can see huge value if you can set up a strong PMO office that's aligned with the strategic direction of the company and can actually be a partner to the leadership of the business to help them execute that strategy. Because it's one thing to create a strategy, but not that many companies successfully execute it, right?
Yeah.
PMO could be very valuable in improving their ability to execute the strategy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there have been several studies published by the Project Management Institute, and there is a consistent difficulty for industry leaders in most of industries and in most of the geographies as well to execute their strategy. And it's not necessary that they are not able to deliver projects. It's that they are not aligning their portfolio of projects with what is necessary for their strategy. So I think it's more a matter of bridging the gap between the strategy and its execution than really focusing on either one or the other. And furthermore, I mean, there is also now the inclusion of other disciplines like change management. And those are two sides of the same coin, I would say. So, your strategy is your problem statement, what needs to happen. But then you need project management to build the solution for the organization, and you need change management to adapt the organization to the solution. If you do one without the other, there is a very high chance that you're not getting maximum success there.
Okay, great. Now, let's segue a little bit into you, Fred. In your personal life, I mean, what are your greatest hobbies? What do you like to do?
Well, I have too many hobbies and not enough time. I grill, obviously. I spend a lot of time on the grills and the smokers over the weekends and so on and so forth. When I'm not grilling, I read a lot of books and comic books as well. I love to ride my motorcycle over the weekend as well with fellow bikers. I do practice martial arts as well. I teach ninjutsu. I have my own dojo since 2016 in Dubai. What else? I play music. And occasionally I sleep when I find time for that.
You got a lot of hobbies, my friend. Yeah. So do you go out on the bike in the summer, or you give it a miss for a couple of months?
No. It's like barbecuing. I try not to miss it for too long. Although, in Dubai, there are some instances where it's not even uncomfortable. It's painful. I mean, I've had one instance where I took the bike and it was fine for the first 10 minutes. And then I realized the wind was burning through my gloves and the heat of the handle was burning through my glove from inside. And the inside of my helmet was burning as well. And then I had to do a U-turn and drive back home for the next 15 minutes, which was probably the most excruciating 15 minutes I've ever had on the bike. But yeah, no, early in the morning or late at night, it's still bearable. And it's the same on the grill, when technically you're behind the flames, whether it's 50 degrees in Dubai or not is inconsequential.
Okay. Now, also, do you have any particular influencers, podcasters, authors, or any inspiration that you go to, whether it be business thinkers or just people that you follow that would be your inspiration, that you would recommend others to listen to or to read their books?
Well, I mean, there are a couple. I try to be very open and varied in the things I listen to or the things that I read. There is one guy that I always admired in the way that he's delivering messages. It's of course Simon Sinek, and whenever I have a chance to watch videos of that guy, every time there is something to learn out of it, either on the content or simply on the way he delivers or the way he explains. And of course, you're familiar with that as well. I've spent several years practicing with Toastmasters International, and there are so many tips and tricks and recipes in how to make an impact when you speak, that finding someone who's excellent at it is just incredibly inspirational.
Yeah, I was in Toastmasters for a while as well. Toastmasters is great, and I think it's especially recommended for young executives, because public speaking, they say, is I think it's the #1 fear in the world, right? More than death.
More than death.
Would rather die.
Believe that.
People would rather die than actually get up and speak. And actually, it's a skill that can be or it's a fear that can be overcome with practice. And as you say, like most strong leaders become very good communicators. A lot of them with the help of someone like Toastmasters. So yeah, I could put a plug in there for Toastmasters. I spent a good few years in Toastmasters myself. Okay, so look, you've been a successful executive. You're now on an entrepreneur journey as well, but you're still a very accomplished executive. And I've seen your working style. It's a very mature, competent leadership. What advice would you give to yourself if you were 18 years old? If you go back to Fred, who was 18 years old, and you know everything you know now, what advice would you give to that person?
Well, yeah, Professor Hindsight is the best teacher, right? If I had to give myself only one advice, and it's an advice that I gave my son as well. My son just turned 20 recently. It's okay to fail, and this is probably the fear that crippled me for the longest in my professional career. It's the fear of failing, and that has stopped me or prevented me for too long to take risks, and for too long to start ventures and launch businesses, whether it's outside of an organization or within an organization. And it came back a couple of years ago. Progressively, I started becoming less risk averse and discovering that, there is a thrill in taking a risk. I'm talking about calculated risks, of course. I'm not talking about being reckless, but it's worth a try. It's worth doing something. It's worth, failing, because in every failure, there is a lesson to learn. And in every lesson to learn, you become better and you have a higher chance of succeeding in the next endeavor that you're starting. And I think it's priceless.
So you would be saying to an 18-year-old, don't be scared of failing.
Go for it. Go for it, man.
Yeah, well, I think there's lots of advice and lots of evidence that nobody succeeds the first time around, and actually most successful entrepreneurs, they're not. If you actually go and study them, you'll find that they've failed numerous times before they actually ultimately become successful. I mean, I think you have to learn the hard way, and as humans, I certainly. I've got kids as well, like you, and as humans, they have to learn the hard way, and often they can't. You can't even give them advice. And sometimes failing is good.
Yeah, my dad used to say something that was quite interesting. when your dad tells you something, you realize, well, he doesn't know anything. And it's only after he's gone that suddenly you start feeling, well, maybe he was onto something. And he was saying that experience is a candlelight that only lights the one who bears him.
Experience is a candlelight that only lights the one that bears it. Okay, very good. Okay, well, look, we're going to wrap up. I just want to finish off with one question. Back to Vistage, who are sponsoring this podcast with the top floor. So you are a recent Vistage member. If you had anyone out there that was thinking about coming into Vistage and joining Vistage, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would tell them not to wait, because, as I said, it's a lonely journey, and it's very difficult to find someone you can share with. And I find the confine of a Vistage group to be extremely safe. I feel safe sharing my challenges. And what I do like in particular is the fact that we hold each other accountable, not only on the business aspects of our lives, but also on the personal aspects and the health aspect. And this is extremely crucial because some of us become very successful in our businesses at the expense of their personal life or at the expense of their health. And unfortunately, it is not sustainable. And having peers around you that help you just balancing things out and not neglecting one aspect of your life to the benefit of another is something that is absolutely priceless. And it's an investment, it's a time investment, but it's a very, very productive investment.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, the three areas that we do tend to focus on in Vistage are obviously work. That's the big one, but personal and health as well. Exactly as you say. I mean, if they are out of balance, and one is one is at a low ebb, generally, you're at risk of things going wrong pretty quickly. And we all know that we've all been where we've overworked ourselves, and as you get older, that gets more problematic. So we do like to check in personal health as well as work as well.
Yeah.
Because holistically, you need all three to be going well to really live a successful life and to be successful in work.
Definitely. And it takes a group of people who face similar challenges to really give worthwhile advice when we share.
And to hold each other accountable. I think that's the big thing as well, right? I mean, when you commit to something in Vistage, then you're coming back the next month.
You got to do it. You got to do it. That's it.
And you want to be held accountable. That's what makes certainly I believe most people want that accountability. That spurs them on and gives them the motivation to actually execute what they tell others they're going to do. Okay, Fred, look, thank you very much for today.
Thank you, John.
Congratulations on a successful career in the project management industry, and also I think you're well on the way to conquering the world with smoking beards as well. So I'm going to look at smoking beards with great excitement and see where this is going to go. And hopefully it won't be too long before it's a brand known throughout the world.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
Super. All right. Thank you for joining me today, Fred.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.